What's up, guys? Mike here again. This is my second in a series of obscure companies with huge moats, and this time I'm going to talk about Naga Corp. Okay, so most people probably haven't heard of this company, but it is a luxury hotel and casino in Phnom Penh in Cambodia. And the reason why I'm saying the moat is huge on this company is because they have an exclusivity agreement with the government there that says that they're the only one that's allowed to build a casino in the city, which is the biggest city in the country, and that's not just within the city, but it's within 200 kilometers of the city. So if you want to go to Cambodia and you want to gamble, this is basically the only game in town, and that right goes till 2065. So they effectively have a monopoly here, and one of the best businesses you can run. Like if I was to ask you, what kind of company you would want to run if you were guaranteed a monopoly on it, casino might be on the list, right? Like I used to live in Australia, and each of those each of the cities in Australia has one casino. So, and I don't think that they can build any other ones. And you go in these casinos and they just take you for all you're worth, right? Because you want to go out Friday night, have some fun. It's the only game in town, right? Like I play poker, and you'd sit down at this casino. If you went to the Sydney, I forget what it's called, the Star Casino, I think. The Melbourne one's a bit better, I think. But in Sydney, you sit down at this table, and they take a massive rake, which is like the cut that the house takes off every poker pot. Plus, you have to pay just to sit there. They have this time charge as well, and it's kind of like, well, what are you going to do? You want to play poker? That's where you go, right? So they have that kind of situation, and casino can be a tough business, but when you don't have competition, it's not as tough. Okay, so let me go through some notes here, why I think this is interesting. So first of all, basically it's been shut down because of COVID, right? Cambodia was pretty tight in COVID. They really locked the country down, and because a lot of the customers of this company, Naga Corp, are from China, actually tourists from China, they've been hit on two fronts, right? Because China was locked down as well, and people weren't traveling out of the country. I think the government said that they couldn't. So they've had a really slow few years here, but they've weathered the storm, and they're starting to come out of it. Now I'm going to maybe I should give a quick overview here of what's going on. So they have two different hotels, Naga World 1, Naga World 2, and up together these have about 1,660 rooms, hotel rooms. They are in the process of building a third one called Naga World 3, and that was supposed to be done by 2025, and that was going to take them to 5,000 rooms and start building in all these other sort of attractions that not just gambling, because right now it's hotel gambling, and they're going to build in more of a resort kind of environment with a lot more attractions and stuff. So basically they were going to triple the size of their offering, and that is one of the big growth engines. Now, if you look at the stock price, it's come down a lot, and one of the big reasons for that is that they have delayed the end of this project from 2025 to 2029. So if you're in the stock market, 2029 is like never, right? Nobody has the ability to wait for 6 years for something like this. So people have just been selling it. I don't know where the bottom's going to be. It might be even lower. But I think that has really hurt the stock. And that's why I'm sitting back and kind of watching this and seeing, maybe let's figure out where it lands. But to get back to but there still are some interesting parts to the bull thesis here. So I'll just go through them quickly. First, let's look at the revenue, right? So prior to COVID, they were up to 1.75 billion in revenue. And as a side note, maybe not even a side note, primary thing you should know about this is they take in revenue and their expenses are all in US dollars. So the currency risk is pretty much neutralized here. Although if you get some kind of event that hurts the country and the currency, then maybe you don't get the travelers as well, the tourists, because these guys are obviously dependent on tourism. Gross profit was up at 850 million, and they've just started to rebound. And in 2022, it was at 376 million. So they're on the way back now. People are starting to visit again. Right now, it's mostly from countries in the area like Thailand and Vietnam. But prior to COVID, China was their number one. Chinese customers were the number one, and they have not come back yet. So if I'm looking at the bull thesis here, the bull thesis here is China is opening. They are going to come back in spades, right? The company has said we expect a sort of a 10 times increase in Chinese customers, put them at like maybe I think it's 1 million, they said. Prior to COVID, it was 2 million. But basically, if they get back to the volume that they used to be at, then the revenue will definitely come back, and probably they're gonna be making more here. So if we look at the potential upside here, let's say they were able to get back to about $500 million in EBIT, let's say by 2025, because the tourism returns and they just get back to normal. I think this is not an unreasonable scenario. That would mean that currently they're trading at about 5 times future earnings. The market cap right now is about 2.5 billion US. That's closer to 20 billion Hong Kong dollars. So it's not super cheap, right? But if they were to get back to where they were basically by 2025, you apply 12 times earning multiple on that, you could get a market cap of $6 billion. And that CAGR would be 16%. Now I'm looking for potentially more than that. I try and hit higher than that on my hurdle rate, just because everything I do doesn't work out. So I need to have bigger wins to make up for some of the losses, the losses or the misses that I have. But some other points here, let me just look around these notes. I think one of the big things here is actually the country. Now, Cambodia is growing quite quickly, actually, and it seems to be quite well managed at the moment. They've had very low inflation since 2009, I believe, and the GDP is averaging about 7% growth for the past 10 years, I guess prior to COVID. But in the medium term going forward, it looks like they're expected to grow at about 6%. So this is one of the ways to indirectly play China's growth too, because in China, gambling is illegal. So Chinese citizens, they have to go elsewhere, usually go to Macau, but other places like Naga World get spillover from that. There's, if they want to travel to a different country. So I think that's sort of a bit of a tailwind. As China grows and incomes grow there, then it'll spill over into places like this. They have also signed a whole bunch of free trade agreements, so they're really opening up. And I wish I could pull up the list here of countries that they've signed with, but they had a whole pile of them in the last few years. And I think the country is really intent on growing, and all signs point to them being able to do this. So I think that just in summary, pretty simple, right? They got beat up by COVID. Tourism's coming back. Chinese tourists are on the way back. China's open now, and I would expect them to achieve around the earnings that they had in 2019 at some point soon. If that takes till 2027 or 2028, then that you end up with CAGR goes down a little bit, but you still will make money off this. You would make money off this trade. Not investment advice, just theoretical, right? So that's the sort of short-term catalyst. The longer-term catalyst is this Naga World 3, where they triple the size of their offering, and by that point, it should really be paid off, right? The reason they delayed it was because they wanted to match their cash flows to their capex. So that's basically it'll be paid for by the time they get there. One thing I should mention here actually is that they do have some debt, and they are required to roll this over. I think it was 2024 it all comes due. So if you end up with a liquidity event that for some reason doesn't allow them to roll this over, then you have a real problem. But I think given the nature of the business and the the safety of the offering, I think that they probably won't have a problem rolling that over, and we'll probably get news of that this year. But anyway, there's a company for you. I've been watching it for 3 or 4 years now, and I'm still waiting for my pitch. I've seen a lot of pitches go by, but I just watch them. I keep watching them, and if I get a pitch that I like, I would take a swing at this, because I think the business is a business that I would like to own, a monopoly casino in a capital city in Asia. So that's it for me. Hope you got something from that. Let me know in the comments if you have anything to add. Thanks very much. Bye.